All right, let's do this. So, watts per kilogram is all the hype when it comes to cycling. The goal, of course, is to get the highest watts that you possibly can for the lowest amount of kilogram body weight that you possibly can. The higher the watts, the lower the kilo, the higher that number is, and the stronger you are as a rider, correct? Cool. The other day when I was at a cycling event, I asked someone what their FTP is, and they told me around 300. And I was like, oh wow, that's actually pretty strong. But then when I asked him what his weight was, and he said it was around 90 kilos, I realized that FTP isn't actually that high compared to the weight. And so in today's YouTube video, what we want to do is discuss how we as endurance athletes can lose weight in a sustainable way that will still allow us to feel good while we're riding and not feel like absolutely drained or bonking. How can we drop weight as a cyclist? Now you think it should be easy, right? Given that we are literally burning thousands of calories on our rides. You'd be surprised how many cyclists and endurance athletes you meet that could afford to lose a few pounds, almost like they have a gut or something going on. So what is the disconnect? Where does that come from? And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Let's talk about metabolism. Now, I'm not going to be referencing any scholarly articles, but I will be replacing the reference of scholarly articles with my scholarly background. As you know, I myself am a scholar. No, just kidding, but I am in a different background today, so I hope you enjoy, and I don't even know what the word is. I mean, I feel smart just being in this room. It's our secondary office, we don't really use it, but if it, you know, you feel like elegant and refined. I feel like I should be sipping a glass of champagne or discussing quantum mechanics. Anyways, okay, metabolism. Let's talk about what it is and the basics and what we need to understand before we dive into actual things that we can do. What is a calorie? A calorie is a unit of energy which produces work. How much work? Exactly 4.184 joules. And remember that number as it will be important later. The amount of calories that you need to consume on a daily basis is determined by a few factors. And one of those factors is something called RMR, resting metabolic rate. It is the amount of energy that your body needs just to exist on a daily basis. Brain processes, your normal bodily functions, breathing, digesting, just existing. That's the resting metabolic rate. Simple enough. Now, when you take calories burnt on top of that through a few factors, whether that be exercise, such as your cycling, whether that be non-exercise activity, such as doing chores and walking. I guess walking your dog could be considered exercise, but you know, like going to get groceries and washing the dishes and cleaning the house, walking to the car and stuff like that. So you have all these extra calories burnt through movement, and then there's also calories burnt through thermogenesis, and that's the process of getting heat. And there's a few different kinds of thermogenesis. One of them is from digesting your food, the other is from activity and whatnot. So you take all of these and you throw them on top of resting metabolic rate, and that determines the amount of calories that you need to eat in a day to maintain your weight. And that's a simplified way of looking at it, but I like it. And so the typical formula we see here is calories in versus calories out. How many calories do I need to consume, and how many calories do I need to burn to maintain this weight? So for example, let's say that your resting metabolic rate is 2,000 calories a day, and that's pretty high, but let's say that you did a bike ride today and burnt about 500 calories. So now we're up to 2,500, and if you add in all the other exercise, activity, thermogenesis, all the other stuff involved, let's say we're at 3,000. So you would have to eat 3,000 calories this day just to maintain your weight. It's not an easy ask. 3,000 calories is quite hefty, but like if you're like me and you like candy and other stuff like that, then maybe it's a little bit easier. There's another thing that we need to talk about, and that's EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Why is that a tongue twister for me? In just simple terms, it's the amount of oxygen that your body needs to recover, especially after you've done something hard. For example, HIIT or Orange Theory. You know, if you've ever gone to Orange Theory and they tell you about splat points, if you get 12 or more splat points, then your body enters the fat burning zone. Essentially just EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen recovery. Your body needs extra oxygen to repair and bring itself back to normal. By the way, if you're interested in learning about how to recover faster, check out this video that I posted last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that. All right, now you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, cool, okay, so if I know my resting metabolic rate and my Garmin or my Apple Watch tells me how many calories I burnt, then I can just like put that together. Just take that number with a grain of salt. Your Garmin may not actually be accurate, and there's a reason for it. And same with your Apple Watch. Your Apple Watch bases it more on your heart rate. A ton of things can affect the variability of those readings, whether there's altitude or humidity, or you just had a big meal, or caffeine, or how you slept. That's one thing. The Garmin based it on your work in kilojoules that you put out. And that's where thermodynamic efficiency comes into play. Big word, I know. Here's the deal. How am I gonna put this? We as humans are quite inefficient at doing work. So instead of taking that 1 calorie and doing 4.184 joules of work, we're not that efficient. The research suggests anywhere between 20 to 25% of that is used towards work, and the rest kind of like consumed and making heat. That's why your body temperature raises so much when you exercise. And so take that 20 to 25%, estimate it at 25% just to make it easy. And then you take 4.184 and you realize 25% of that is almost 1. And so the Garmin estimates how many calories you burnt based on a 1-to-1 relationship between how many kilojoules of energy you put out. Am I saying that right? There's a 25% of joules you put out. No, it's a 1-to-1. It's a 1-to-1. Yeah, that's right. And so listen, we are not that thermodynamically efficient. I can't tell you how efficient you are. Your Garmin probably can't either, but it's a good estimate. So just take it with a grain of salt. And you're probably thinking to yourself that you also are really good at measuring and tracking your food and knowing how many calories you're eating. But take that with a grain of salt as well, because a lot of studies suggest that we are really inaccurate at measuring that. People can under or overestimate how much they're eating by up to 72%. Now, just as a personal story, I had a client who was telling me he's tracking his food every day. He doesn't know why he's losing weight. He's eating 1,600 calories a day. So on the lower side, especially for a man who's exercising every day and going on huge bike rides anyways. And so I'm like, interesting. And so I asked him to share his food notes with me, and he sent them to me. He sent me what his tracking looks like. And then we realized everything was off. He was tracking half a cup of oats when in reality he was eating 1 cup of oats. He was tracking half of this, and in reality he was eating 33% more of it. And not everything is set in stone. Take everything with a grain of salt. That's all I'm trying to say here. Cool, we understand the basics of metabolism. Why was that important? Well, here's why. I want to talk about weight loss versus fat loss. You need to understand metabolism in order to properly lose fat. You can easily lose weight. You just move more, eat less. You lose weight, but your body composition looks the same. You don't want that. I mean, I hope not. You've ever meet those people who, you know, they're 200 pounds and then later they're 150 pounds, and you look at them and like, even though they lost 50 pounds, their shape is still the same. Like they still look like they've never been to the gym before. And that's kind of the idea with those people who juice cleanses, starving yourself, diets. You look the same even though you've lost weight. That's not what we want. We want our body composition to change, and we want it to change for the better. What's actually going to help us? Is it losing weight, or is it losing fat while building or maintaining muscle? So give me a second and let me go and grab a visual representation of what I'm talking about.
12 seconds later.
Alrighty, I've returned. So when we say we want to lose weight, ideally what you truly want to lose is this bad boy. This is 5 pounds of fat. It's big, bulky, takes up space, doesn't really do much. When you say you want to build muscle, what you want to do is this. You want to maintain this. I don't know why they're wet. I'm just going to put this aside, but like if you look, this will serve you and this will not. Well, for the most part, you still do need fat on your body. That's a good thing to have. And fat as a macronutrient, we'll talk about later, is super important. But looking at your body composition, this is better than this for the most part. Put that aside. I don't know why they're like greasy. I bought those on Amazon. So weird. Whew. Okay, stop focusing on taking grams off your bike, literal gram, and maybe start focusing on what you can do to your body to make you stronger and more efficient while also dropping kilogram weight off your bike, off yourself, not your bike, off yourself. A lot of people spend thousands upon thousands of dollars upgrading from an Ultegra to a Dura Ace. And I understand, listen, I have a Dura Ace. It's cool, it's great, it's amazing, it works well, it functions fast, it's light. I just want to put this into perspective. The Dura-Ace R9200 group set weighs around 2438 grams, 2438 grams, while the Ultegra R8100 comes in at 2,716 grams, only around 278 grams heavier. Like, that's not that much, 300 grams. If you're looking at the grand scheme of things, 300 grams. I'm pretty sure this is heavier than that. But the price difference, $1,400 US for 300 grams. And don't get me wrong, there is added performance, and I felt the difference. I have the difference. I enjoy the Dura-Ace group set. But if you're looking just at a weight perspective, for $1,400, you can invest in coaching and lose 20 pounds off yourself if you have 20 pounds to lose, which, I mean, if you're watching this video, you're probably here for a reason, right? You probably do have something to lose, and that's why you're here. Just want to be honest. So again, we don't just want to lose weight. We want to lose fat. We want to lose this yellow thing here and maintain or build this. This is going to help us to feel better, to look better, to put more power on the bike, to be more explosive, to even increase FTP and increase our movement economy and all these other things out of the gym and off the bike as well. It's going to help cushion your joints and provide extra mobility and stability and so many other benefits, whereas this is just kind of like a cushion. You know, if you fall, you've got a little pillow there to protect yourself, which is great. But it also has other benefits. I keep underplaying that. You do need a certain amount of body fat. Let's just keep that there. Anyways, let's talk about finally, how can you actually lose weight, fat specifically, now that you understand metabolism and what you want to do and why it's important. Well, I know you've heard of macronutrients before. The 3 macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fats. And you need all 3 of those in your diet. Protein and carbs each have 4 calories, 4, that's it, per gram, meaning you get 1 gram of protein that needs to have 4 calories. 1 gram of carbs needs to have 4 calories. Fat, on the other hand, has 9 calories per gram. It's more than double what protein and carbs have. The benefit of protein is many. Helps you to increase protein muscle synthesis, meaning building muscle and maintaining it, especially if you're in a caloric deficit. Increasing that protein level, the research has shown, and not just the research, but experience has shown, that maintaining and increasing muscle mass comes with a certain amount of protein. You want to focus on that, especially if you're in a caloric deficit. Number 2, your carbs. Carbs are your main source of fuel, especially as an endurance athlete. If you're doing anything other than zone 1, at zone 2, your body is also burning carbs. Zone 3, your body is burning carbs. And it's a continuum. It's not just like only carbs. Carbs and fats are in there as well, but there's a continuum as to how many carbs your body is burning. And the more intense work that you do, the more your body will rely on glycogen coming from carbohydrates. And so that's why carbohydrates are important. So keto as an endurance athlete is not the best thing. And believe it or not, I have had some athletes come to me saying they want to do keto, but they're super low energy. So anyways, keto is great for the right person. If you want to reduce your pre-diabetes risk, then yeah, doing keto for a little bit can help with that. And then there's fats. The benefits are it's high in energy. So having a high-fat meal can supply energy for a long time, and your body uses that energy at low intensities when you're just existing, when you're walking, zone 1, a little bit of zone 2 as well. And so that's where fats are super important and come into play. Not to mention, you know, your cell membranes are made up of lipids, fats, bam. Anyways, then there's micronutrients. All I'm gonna say, get them in. That's it. I don't even have to, just get your micronutrients in. I once met a guy who was telling me he only eats like fast food, junk food, and stuff like that, and was still managing to maintain his muscle mass and lose weight. But the guy was not healthy. No micronutrients in his diet. So remember that number from before, RMR plus calories burnt and all these like other little factors, EPOC and non-exercise activity and thermogenesis. If you take that rough number, and typically if you have an Apple Watch, it'll kind of give you that number of total calories burnt. You can also kind of estimate it. Oh, by the way, the more muscle mass you have, the higher the RMR, or resting metabolic rate, is, meaning the higher your metabolism is, the faster it is, and the more energy you need just to exist. So you can eat more without having, well, I mean, you have to maintain that muscle mass. So you still have to have it, but you can eat more and afford to. You take that number and that gives you a certain amount of calories. So let's just go back to that previous example and say 3,000 calories for the day. Cool, that's how much you need to maintain. Now, for the sake of argument, I'm just throwing out arbitrary numbers. You are a 150-pound athlete, and so you want to eat 150 grams of protein. So if you do the math, which of course, probably grab a calculator. Look at that, how handy. Oh no. 150 times 4, that's 600 calories just in pure protein. Let's say you want to eat 300 grams of carbs in a day. 300 times 4, that's 1,200 calories. So now you have 12 plus 1,600 plus 600, that gives you 1,800 calories. Now you have 1,200 left. Let's say the dividing 1,200 divided by, you need 9 calories per gram of fat, which shows you would have to eat 133 grams of fat. Just using arbitrary numbers, but that kind of helps you to distinguish what you need to be eating and how many grams of macronutrients. So what are those? Now, another thing I want to touch upon just really quickly as a side note is the timing of when you're eating. If you know you're going to be going out for a ride that day and you want to limit your carbs for the day, like let's say your carb limit is 200 grams. Well, it would be wise to eat a good portion of those carbs pre and during ride so that you have the necessary glycogen stores to fuel that ride. Whereas post-ride can be a little bit more proteins and fats and things like that. So, just timing can play a pretty good role, especially when it comes to weight loss as an athlete. All right, that was a whole lot of jibber jabbering and I'm really hoping it helped in some way. I didn't go over everything. Last thing I want to say here is don't try to change everything all at once because it rarely works. When we try to make 100% changes, we end up almost doing nothing because it gets overwhelming. Principle I like to do with my athletes is make big changes all at once, maybe for a week or two, and then from there maintain and 1% better each day. So I think that in our lives we have to have specific seasons dedicated to vast improvement. So spending 1 or 2 weeks learning different things like how to meal prep, how to cook healthy meals, how to shop for healthy food. Anyway, so you put all of these things together, and then once you're done those 2 weeks of learning, you focus on either maintenance or improving by 1%. And that's where small healthy habits come into play. I'm gonna decide every meal I'm gonna have a source of protein and a source of vegetables in there. Once I master that, then I'm gonna make sure I'm drinking enough water every day. Once I master that, I'm gonna make sure that I'm getting good sleep, which will affect my hunger hormones, which will affect how I feel and how much I eat. Maybe I'm gonna focus on eating a decent sized breakfast. I know that if I don't eat in the morning, then I tend to overeat at night. So you take all these small habits, and once you master them, you add another one. Once you master another one, you add another one, and keep piling those up. And that's where extra accountability comes into play, because I know if it were me, I wouldn't do all of these things by myself. I'd get bored, I'd get tired, but accountability does play a huge role. Okay. That's the jibber jabbering all complete. I hope this helps. If it doesn't, I'm really sorry. Give me a thumbs down. Just joking, don't do that, please. I'm putting a lot of work into these, so just let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments below. I will respond, and I'll even send you a private message if I can, and try to help in some way, or I'll make another video about it. Sorry if this was all theory. I tried to give a little bit of practical steps. You got this. Winter's coming. Strength train, get into shape, build muscle, increase endurance. Let's do this. Peace.